Rags clung to my body and my hair stank. I made my way to the jacuzzi in a strange mansion in the dark with the only thought, I need to wash up. And suddenly I heard a rustle behind me. Who's here? I saw a dark silhouette. It was coming at me. I slowly retreated, but I ran into a wall. There was no way out. I was about to scream, but I recognized him in the moonlight. This was Greg, my ex. What was he doing here? But Greg grinned and came closer. I swallowed nervously. It was all over. A month ago, I was the most popular girl in the school. All the guys were drawn to me, but I was in no hurry to like them back. They still needed to earn a relationship with me. And all this despite the fact that my parents were always beggars. How much effort I had to spend to hide this shame. But then it was announced in the class that we could go on a tour to Europe during the summer holidays. Everyone jumped with happiness and immediately paid for the trip. But for me, it was a real blow. Where would I get the right amount? My parents didn't have enough for all the textbooks, but I just had to go. Otherwise, my image would be shattered. As soon as the lessons were over, I immediately rushed home. Maybe my parents had some kind of stash. But Mom and Dad looked at me with bewilderment. Honey, you know we already barely make ends meet. I exploded. You are worthless. You can never afford anything. I shouted and swallowing tears ran to my room. I would find a way to go without the help of these beggars. I was looking for quick ways to earn money on the internet, but they didn't want to hire a schoolgirl. But suddenly I saw information about an experiment, and the age was not important, and they would pay a lot. I applied and they immediately made an appointment for me. At noon, I was standing in the central square. A man in an awesome suit came up to me and introduced himself as Mark. He said that I didn't have to worry about the payment. Their office was ready to shell out, and it was hard not to believe it. There was an expensive watch on Mark's hand. But then it dawned on me that I hadn't asked about the essence of the experiment. Mark calmly said that I would only need to live among homeless people for a month. I joked. This was some kind of joke, right? But Mark was absolutely serious. I will never agree to live with homeless people in my life. Besides, they lived right next to the school. What if one of my classmates saw me? I stood undecided. No, I couldn't do that. I excused myself and hurried home. I would try to find something else, but my search did not bring anything. Was this the end? The next day, I came to school absolutely broken, while the whole class was happy about the upcoming summer trip. But then the idiot Greg came to me. This major was hitting on me in the first semester. Everyone knew that his father was rich, so I started dating Greg for status and money. But his mysterious father almost never gave Greg money. And after a couple of weeks, I dumped him. Although Greg was in love with me and it seemed he was still offended. He shouted to the whole class that apparently my branded handbag was fake. Of course, I'm not the daughter of a rich dad, I thought. But I tried to laugh it off out loud. But then Greg remembered that I was still the only one who didn't pay for the tour. It seems that our Miss Popularity is actually Miss Beggar. He whinnied. Damn it. Shut up. I wanted to howl with frustration. I ran out of the classroom. There was no choice left. I frantically took out my phone and dialed Mark. I agreed to participate in the experiment. Well, at least I wouldn't have to go to school now. According to my conditions, I could not come home. So I lied to my parents that I was going to a friend in the country. And after a couple of days, I was living in a vacant lot among homeless people. And there were disguised cameras around us. Holding back nausea, I ate leftovers, collected bottles, and slept right on the street. I couldn't believe that all this was really happening. It was like a terrible dream, and the homeless people were having fun and joking as if they did not notice the terrible conditions. The stench was so strong that in the first days, my nose was blocked. I felt disgusting and sticky to myself. I kept wanting to run to the shower and wash off all this dirt, but according to the contract, I was not allowed to wash. Yikes. But if I gave up, I wouldn't get a penny. I tried to distract myself with thoughts about the trip. I just needed to be patient now, so that I could live like a real queen later. One evening, I was warming myself with homeless people by the fire and my classmate was walking past our vacant lot. Please no, I couldn't show myself to friends in this form. She was very close. I pretended to dig in the stop so that she wouldn't recognize me. But the classmate stopped and took a step right in my direction. Another second and she would see me. I put a dirty baggage bag on my head, jumped up, and growled right at my classmate. She ran away in terror. The whole next night I couldn't sleep. What if a classmate recognized me and would tell everyone? I couldn't imagine anything worse. But fortunately, the next day, there were no rumors and no one wrote me revealing angry messages. Whew, that was close. It seemed that I was used to such a life, but because of this dirt and stench, I was constantly itching and could not sleep, and my hair turned into some kind of washcloth. I couldn't survive without a shower, and in the end, I came up with a plan. There was Greg's house at the end of the street. While walking with other homeless people, I noticed that the lights had not been turned on there for a couple of days. Apparently, this jerk Greg was hanging out with another lover. I was so obsessed with the idea of taking a shower that I just couldn't help but take this chance, but all the windows were closed. I asked the homeless people how to get into the house, and my new friends immediately gave me a lockpick and explained how to use it. I never would have thought that homeless people could teach me something. At night, I climbed over the fence of the mansion, then bent down, crept to the window, and used the lockpick. But I couldn't do anything. Damn it, I didn't want to get caught breaking in yet. I was already desperate, but in the end, the window opened. I was already making my way to the chic jacuzzi. I had been dreaming about it, but suddenly someone sharply called my name. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I slowly turned around and saw Greg. Why did he decide to return today? It was terrible. He would tell everyone. I began to tell him plaintively about the experiment and hoped so much that he would understand me. After all, we were together for some time. But Greg just grinned. And I almost fainted. He said that now he would tell everyone in the class about the experiment and that I was a beggar. I didn't know what to do, but then I remembered that Greg's parents almost never gave him money. I gathered my thoughts and blurted out, "I'll give you half of my fee, but don't tell anyone about the homeless people. I pray." Greg thought about my offer for a long time. Come on, this was my last chance. And finally, with a straight face, he said that he agreed. I was already happy, but Greg continued. He agreed to 90% of the fee. What? And then what would be left for me? Greg just shrugged. I was overwhelmed by despair. But I had no choice. I agreed to Greg's terms, because this was the only way I could preserve my school reputation. After that, Greg threw me out the door, not even allowing me to wash. What a bastard! I never felt so humiliated in my life. But I didn't expect that it would only get worse. In the next couple of days, Greg came to the vacant lot to the homeless and mocked me as much as he could. He was always sarcastic, and a couple of times even threw some leftovers at me. And the worst thing was that I couldn't do anything. Gritting my teeth, I tried to ignore him. But after another joke, I realized that this could not continue any longer. I just had to put him down somehow. And then it dawned on me. Exactly. After all, he was once in love with me, which meant I would be able to push him around, as I had always pushed fools in love. The next day, when Greg came to the vacant lot, I tried to behave as in the first semester, ignoring his stupid jokes. I smiled sweetly and hinted in every possible way that I was interested in him. Come on, Greg. I may stink, but you're still crazy about me. But it seemed that everything was in the past. Greg didn't pay any attention to my efforts. But before he left, he discreetly stroked my hand over the fence. It worked. Even in this form, I could seduce anyone. Greg was in the bag. At this rate, I would gradually force him to give up 90% of the fee. By the way, about the fee, a month already passed. I called Mark to demand the fee, and Mark, without further ado, told me to come to an address. Finally, all this would end. I immediately went to the right address. The navigator led me to a tall building. I had to go to the top floor. I wanted to use the elevator, but the people standing next to me shied away from my smell and I had to climb the stairs. It would all be over soon. Here it was, the cherished door, behind which wealth awaited me. I entered the room and found myself in some kind of television studio. All the cameras immediately turned on me. What was going on? I covered my face with my hands and wanted to run away. But at that moment, I ran into Greg. "What are you doing here? And how did you find out the address?" I panicked. Greg said that he set it up from the very beginning. I couldn't believe my ears. What about the ad? And Mark? But then Greg calmly revealed that Mark was his father. My knees began to give away. What a shame. "But Greg, why did you need this?" Greg looked into my eyes, and that look made me feel uneasy. "This is revenge for my broken heart. Now you will not push people around," he said. And he added that fake popularity was not a reason to be arrogant. I rushed to the exit, but Greg grabbed my arm and turned me straight to the cameras. Everyone started taking video and pictures. No, my life was ruined. The whole country would see me as a dirty, untidy, homeless girl. Then Greg let me go. I wanted to hide in a corner. In tears, I ran out into the street. I spent a whole month living among homeless people just because Greg wanted to teach me a lesson. I felt used and betrayed. But why was he doing this to me? Suddenly I realized that I had done no better myself. I was rude to my parents and changed guys only because of expensive gifts. Greg really loved me. And I couldn't even explain why I dumped him properly. But nothing could be changed. In 1 second, my whole life fell apart. I didn't know where to go and what to do next. But suddenly I saw one of the homeless people with whom I lived near the wall of the house. He was sitting on the asphalt and playing the guitar merrily. He was happy. The homeless man noticed me, smiled at me with the remains of his teeth, and winked. "Why are you sad? Let's go for a walk." At first, I was taken aback, and then I laughed. And how did I not understand before that money didn't bring happiness? I took the homeless man by the arm and we walked down the street. And I didn't care what passers-by would say. Did you like the story? Like it and subscribe to our channel.
Hi, I'm Goldie. What are you willing to do to win an argument? Personally, I once did not wash for 3 months for the sake of winning. Watch this video to the end and find out what it's like to become a walking garbage can. My family always participated in lotteries in the pursuit of wealth. My parents called me Goldie, although my name is still normal, but my older brother was named Rich. And it's Rich, not Richard. That's hilarious. But there's nothing good about my brother other than his name. Because of the eternal indulgence of his parents, he grew up a spoiled, greedy, and disgusting guy. You know those favorites in the families who always get away with everything? Rich had been mocking me since I was a child, using the bet as a cover. "Rich, why did you shave your sister's head?" "Well, she lost the bet, Dad." For the father, the bet is the meaning of all life. He is so gambling that he is ready to argue even with his own children. With the help of the bet, Rich won the right to live as he wants and do whatever he wants. For example, the last time he washed was probably a month ago. Ugh, I'm going to be sick. How do you feel about personal hygiene? I am a neat freak. A shower twice a day, regular hand washing, a full bath every night. For me, this is the minimum set. I never liked to argue, and I wasn't a gambler unless... I love driving, and soon I'll get my license. I wish we had the money for a car, and for college too. My father decided to rely on dollar lotteries. Everyone got a ticket, and then we watched the games on TV. And, you know, sometimes we even won. Most often, Rich was lucky. Once he got 300. My father introduced a rule. The winner gives 25% to the family, the same amount for my education, and takes the rest for himself. Soon, my father brought expensive tickets with high winnings, one for each family member. I chose the golden ticket and Rich chose the red one. All day long, he carried the ticket and talked it over for good luck. Rich was really lucky. He had 2/3 of winning tickets and I didn't win a single one. But suddenly, before the game, Rich came up to me and offered to exchange tickets. He said that he wanted me to win. He tried to persuade me, breathing on me with unwashed for a week teeth, and I agreed if only he would back off. The lottery began, the host began to call the numbers, and suddenly, Rich jumped up with a cry. Jackpot! This jerk won the jackpot with my ticket. Have you ever participated in lotteries? The odds of winning are less than 1%. And here's the whole jackpot. I threw my fists at Rich, trying to get my ticket back, but my parents stopped me. Rules are rules. It was his winnings. $100,000. That's how much my brother stole from me that day. I began to feel depressed, but despite this, I still passed the exams and got my license. In mockery of me, Rich bought a swanky Ford Mustang, and he didn't even have a license. Seeing that I was melting with envy, Rich constantly added fuel to the fire. "Hey Goldie, can we go for a ride?" he asked. As soon as my eyes lit up, he jumped on my back with a laugh and shouted, "Jump over the horizon." Smelly, dirty ass fucking freak. It was as if he didn't understand that I was in pain. I tried not to react, but Rich became unstoppable. He made me cry every day. I forced my family to face the fact. I was leaving home and would stay with friends until college. My parents tried to dissuade me, but I firmly said, I will not live with a dirty freak who brings me to tears with impunity. The next day, Rich stopped me as I was coming out of the bathroom. He immediately started with a sentence. "If you win a bet, I'll give you the car. I was offended that you are proud of your cleanliness. As if your family is dirty bums," he said. "It's simple. You don't wash until the end of summer, and the car is yours." I froze in place. That was 3 months. Would you make a deal? Was purity worth it to come to college on cool wheels? Hell yes, I thought. And we shook hands. So began the 3 months of hell. You see, Rich didn't plan on giving me a chance to win the argument in the first place. He installed locks in the bathroom and toilet. And in the courtyard, he put a dry bio toilet especially for me. I tried to drink less and eat less, but it didn't take long and I had to go to the toilet. Rich offered me the bathroom key with a fake smile, but I pulled myself together and continued the bet. Soon, my poor hair began to be hard to comb, as if it had been varnished, and my clean pores began to clog and my face began to have terrible pimples. But the worst thing was that I was surrounded by the smell of sweat and dirty body. As soon as I walked into a room, everyone started wincing, and Rich started calling me stinky. The nail kit was left in the bathroom, and I got tired of picking dirt out from under my nails and just chewed them off. I was crying as I chewed off chunks of my once beautiful manicure. That night, I regretted what I had done. Never put your unwashed hands in your mouth. I had a severe attack of diarrhea. The first, but not the last. In less than a month, pimples and strange spots began to appear all over my body, and my wonderful hair fell down as if I had receding hairlines and baldness. I stopped being Goldie. I became a stinker. On the second month, my parents couldn't stand it and sent me to live in a tent in the yard. Even the wide open windows and air fresheners didn't save them from my smell. I had to hide from the rain in order not to lose a bet and eat on the street like a dog. I was almost at the finish line, and Rich just couldn't afford to lose. He decided to play a trick. He went out into the yard with a mirror, gave it to me, and said, "Your friends will be here in an hour. Decide for yourself," and threw the bathroom keys on the ground. I looked at myself in the mirror and threw up. God, what happened to me? I literally sunk to the point of living on the street. You dirty, filthy stinker. I grabbed my keys and ran to the bathroom. But it was busy. My father was washing inside. I ran to my room and locked myself in. But as soon as I turned around, all of a sudden, I saw the flash of a camera and Rich was smiling happily. Either you go to the bathroom right now, or a photo of Goldie the Stinker will appear in social media. You will hardly wash your reputation after that. As if in an epiphany, I realized that no matter how I looked, it's what's inside that matters. And inside, I'm Goldie. Rich didn't hesitate to pay for my college tuition with his winnings, which might not have been there at all. And instead of thanking him, I demanded more. God, I'm so ashamed. Yes, of course he is not a saint, but he is certainly not a bad person, as I have seen him all this time. As a parting surprise, my dad gave me a car. It turned out that the biggest victory is the ability to accept defeat. Have you ever bet? Tell us in the comments. And also subscribe to the channel, put a like, and do not miss new stories.
Hey, I'm Karen. I'm a single mom. Have you ever gotten into a situation where your family has turned away from you and people who are seemingly strangers don't? Watch until the end and you'll see that sometimes even our biggest troubles are because of ourselves. I had Susie when I was a college sophomore. She wasn't planned, but me and my boyfriend were serious at the time, and my upbringing made an abortion a big no. I'm not sorry, but it wasn't easy. My boyfriend was the first to go. I had to leave college for a while too. Handling Susie alone was too hard, so I had to move back in with my parents for a while. I was ready for many things, but not for being met with condemning looks at the very gas station when I got into town. Yeah, our town is small. Everyone knows everyone. I thought I'd get some support. But I heard some things I wouldn't wish upon even my worst enemy about. Parents would cross to the other side of the street with their children when they saw me. Their kids were told if they misbehaved, they'd end up like me. My own mom and dad didn't try to stand up for me. They only made it worse trying to fix things. Then they gave me a choice. Either I marry someone who is willing to take a wife with baggage, or I left. I was hurt and ashamed, like I'd done something bad, even though it wasn't my fault. Have you ever felt this way? I went back to college as soon as I could, left Susie with the babysitters for a few hours. I had to take classes with people who I didn't know, and I was glad. I hid my life from people. I didn't want students at college to whisper behind my back. Luckily, it was in a different state, and it wasn't that hard to hide. I was constantly exhausted. All the fun things students do, I had to give them up, so people stopped inviting me to parties. I dashed home between classes to breastfeed Susie. I went home for the winter break, and I took Susie, and when the plane was landing, Susie became really fussy, and I couldn't calm her down. I just wanted to cry and yell, but suddenly a man sitting next to me got out finger puppets and started a little show for Susie. His name was Ben, and he had a son, a little bit older than Susie, and Ben was flying to his wife's parents for Christmas. His family was already there, and he'd got delayed because of work. This was like a scene from a Christmas movie. If he wasn't married, I decided that he was my destiny. Funny, right? He helped me with my luggage at the airport, and put me on my bus, and we parted ways amicably. I was glad that I met my parents. They accepted Susie, but not my choices. All throughout winter break, all I heard was about how wrong I was, all the mistakes I made, trying to go through college and bring up Susie all at once. All this sat heavy. I was glad to go back to college, till the first lecture in a new course, because Ben was the professor, the very Ben from the plane. The someone could be my destiny if it was a rom-com, Ben. But it wasn't a rom-com, more like a horror movie. He saw me and smiled like he'd seen a good friend. It was all fine for the first half of the lecture, but then he got into discussing peculiarities of management. Now all parents will understand, he said and winked at me. Right, Karen? He realized instantly, looking at me, that he'd said something wrong. My classmates started whispering. I apologized, got up and left. I cried in the restroom until the end of the lecture. Maybe my parents were right. Maybe I had to leave college and just be a mom. Perhaps I shouldn't have had the baby at all. During the break, girls from the course brought me homework assignments. I expected them to show some reaction to the news, but it never came. As if nothing had really happened. That very day, Ben and I ran into each other in the hallway. I wanted the floor to swallow me up, but he looked pretty guilty. He asked what was wrong and then apologized for outing my secret of being a mom. Good God. He even had gotten scared that something was wrong with Susie and that's why I'd left. By the end of the week, my classmates invited me to join them to pizza. And before I had time to say no, they said that there was a kids' playroom there. I couldn't believe it. After the treatment my own family gave me, my classmates were behaving like there was nothing wrong with me. Ben introduced me to his wife. She's a stay-at-home mom now, and sometimes she babysits Susie when I can't find anyone. I wish I could end this story in a positive way, but my fears of being condemned weren't groundless. I had to take an end-of-the-year interview exam with this old crone of a professor. When I hesitated with an answer, she said young mothers' brains go soft, and I was a good example of that fact. That was a pretty low blow for me. I couldn't finish the interview and had to retake the exam. My friend said that I should press charges against her. Yep, I have friends now, though. My feeling of shame stood in the way of getting true support and help. Susie's first year of life could have been much happier and easier. Friends, what do you think? What would you do if you were in my place? Why did my own family show less support than some random people? Please like this video so that more people can see it. Subscribe to our channel to see when we post our next video.